Good morning, friends, and welcome to the fifth episode of Tabletop Humans, where I invite other humans in the tabletop space to chat about the work they do, whether it's game design, TTRPG actual plays, charity work, what have you. We play a party game and then we have you home around 9. I'm your host, Just the Human. My pronouns are they, them, theirs, and today's human guest is Cai, aka EstelofImladris on the internet, who uses he, they, she pronouns. Cai is an incredible TTRPG performer, consultant, and costumer, among so many other amazing things. I am literally so excited to chat with him today about costuming in TTRPGs, creating three-dimensional characters, exploring oneself through TTRPGs, and so much more, not to mention what their good morning proclamation is going to be for today. With that being said, Cai, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I am literally so excited to chat with you. Can you please introduce yourself and let us know what you do as a human in the tabletop space and outside of it as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Kai. I use he, they, and she pronouns, and I am a TTRPG performer, mostly seen over on Transplanet RPG and on the Happy Jacks RPG network, and moonlighting in a bunch of other places. I am also a TTRPG creator. I have some smaller published works, some bigger stuff on the horizon. I've been doing a lot of writing lately. I'm a game consultant. I've done consulting for Darrington Press and some other smaller projects that are still not out yet. And I am also a IATSE 705 union costumer in film and television. And I do all of those things all kind of wrapped in the same thought of I like telling stories.
I love that. You do a lot, and it is very cool to see you thriving in our space. So just hats off to you. Probably like how many hats would you say? I think like 10 hats at least that you're
It's
wearing.
somewhere in there. Yeah.
Incredible. Well, as we have all just heard, Kai has a really amazing career doing so many different things. But not only is it tabletop, you're also in costuming in television and film. And I'd really just like to hear about how you got drawn into the arts, acting, costuming, how that led you to TTRPGs, how you how you view performing as a way of life in its whole. And I know that's a really big thing to throw at you to start with, but I think that if anyone's going to be able to answer it between me and you, it's going to be you.
Well, thanks. I always say I love being taken the way the river takes me. I started as an athlete. I had nothing to do with tabletop. I didn't realize that costuming was a career you could have. I was a athlete in college in an NCAA Division One field hockey team, and I got injured, and I was like, "This isn't doing it for me anymore." So I just looked around for other things that I wanted to pursue, and I went to theater and fell in love with doing theater that I'd always wanted to do. Um, and I got specifically in and thought, I'd like to do acting and costuming. And I fell out of love with acting very quickly and fell into love with costuming very quickly. The acting thing was mostly because of roles that I was being given. Um, the offers of roles for a not quite understanding that I was non-binary yet, a very mask presenting Asian person was not, they were not fun. I did not enjoy them. And I was like, you know what? I could do other things. And I was at the same time being given just the most incredible and beautiful opportunities to do costuming, and getting to immerse myself in history and people in the things that they wear and how they wear them and why they wear them. And I just fell in love with costuming so completely. And so then I just pursued it, and I've worked in costuming, as I said before, in film and television. I worked at Disneyland Parks and Resorts for years. I have done everything from like small commissioned work for one person to stuff that's been seen on the global stage in costuming. I really enjoy it. I have a background as a tailor. I have my master's in design for entertainment media from UCLA. And all of these things I just kind of kept pursuing and kept pursuing. And then I graduated from grad school and went, okay, but what do I do for myself? And a friend of mine in grad school, whose name is Maeve, um, was a big tabletop fan, and we became very good friends during grad school, and she was like, "You would really like D&D." And D. And I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." And so one night, as all good friends do, she came over to my house with her stack of 5e books, and we built characters, and she just kind of, like, walked me through how modern D&D works because I had played it a little in high school, but I was an undiagnosed ADHD teenager, and I was like, "There's so many words in this book, there's a lot of math, I don't know what's happening," and I did not have fun. And so my friend coming over and being like, "This is how you do it, this is what it's really about," and she pitched it as character and storytelling, that you can do on your own in your house whenever you want, with scheduling limitations. And, I was like, "Wow, this is awesome." Um, and basically from then on out, I fell into it. I started watching actual plays. I started writing my own homebrew setting. For my first game I played, for any duration, I wrote my own homebrew adventure. I just was like, "Oh, okay, we're in it now." And I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed world building, and so I just took it and ran and wrote like a. I think before we ever started my first campaign, I had written like a 200-page lore document. Uh, and so I was like, "Oh no, I'm in it now." That game is still running to this day. And Maeve met her current girlfriend because a friend of mine wanted to play in that game.
Hi, that's so fucking cute. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
and um I love how deeply I was just like, "Oh, I love this," and it has never stopped. And then for performing, I was watching actual plays and going, "Well, I could do that." But I was not quite sure about the, like, resistance I had had from acting, and the moment that I dipped my toe in, all of my fear about why I had stopped acting was gone. Partly because I wasn't like a late teen, early 20-year-old in college, but also because I had come into my own. I've been out as non-binary for like a decade. I don't think that people are gonna perceive me as a sweet, tiny little Asian girl, anymore. I don't think that that is something that I will run the risk of unless I want them to. And I just came in and I said, "This is who I am, and this is what I would like to do," and unlike the acting space that I was trying to get into, I was embraced with open arms in the TTRPG community. And that desire to hear the stories that I have had since I was a kid, that I cultivate for myself and cultivate for the characters that I design costumes for, that I write for, whatever. I went, "Oh, this is it. I can tell stories for myself that other people enjoy. I can tell stories that mean something to me as a mixed non-binary person, and people hear it. They're excited about it. It helps and inspires them." And I went, this is it. And so everything I do, down from Twitch streaming, which I also do, to TTRPG performing and writing and game design, all of that to me is always about helping people do what I came in the TTRPG space and fell in love with, which is telling my own story in a way that means something to either, even if it's just to me. And so, yeah, this long wandering path from NCAA Division One field hockey goaltender, all the way through, and all through that, working in film and television, working in theme parks, everything, and all of it, all just pointed me towards telling stories the best way I can, the most authentic way I can.
Ugh, that's really beautiful. I do not like the start of the path, unfortunately for you, where people tried to put you in a box, but I love that you got to expand and start creating your own box, and maybe you created some triangles along the way and some rectangles, and it's really amazing being able to watch you on the other side of the screen when you're doing your performances. And so one really sticks out in my mind, and that was, let me get the date right. It was in the spring of 2024. You got the Romeo role for Pixelated Players. And that was a 2 day performance, two different performances on 2 different days that raised over $10,000 for a Thousand Dreamers Fund. And that was badass. One, it was just a really ambitious, amazing thing to watch. And it brought so many people together. But I know for you specifically, it was very fulfilling. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that from you because I remember reading a Twitter thread and just my heart filled with joy for you. So I'd love to delve a little bit more into
Yeah.
that.
Oh my god, thank you so much. I It was so funny because I was told about that production by a friend, by Candace the Magnificent. Um, and I was like, I would love to just like be in the chorus. So one of the things I did in 2020 when we were all doing fun little quirky things on the internet is some of my friends were doing Shakespeare readings. Just fun, no pressure, all comers, come read Shakespeare together as a group. And that was the kind of beginning of me coming back to acting, because I had just started doing D&D. I had just found all these little pieces of who I used to be that I wanted to reclaim and had not figured out yet. Growing up, I was a huge Shakespeare nerd. I went to the Old Globe in San Diego, I think every summer for like 7 years or something like that to go see one of the shows that they do down there. And, like, I've been to the Rose in London. I love Shakespearean plays and all of that stuff, and I got kicked out of my high school honors program because my teacher did not like me in huge part because when we were reading Romeo and Juliet, we only had 2 boys in my class, and they were shy and awkward and did not like reading aloud. I read Romeo for most of that class because I was the only person who would volunteer, and she did not, enjoy the fact that I clearly had a good time. Uh, and I have never forgotten that, not just for the negative, but for the positive of my friends really like loved that and like they felt very safe playing Juliet, but also like Romeo was one of those characters that when you think of like romantic leads and especially as a like masked non-binary person, I'm always finding places where I wanted to be seen and wasn't able to, and to then come to this on a whim, this, production of Romeo and Juliet with pixelated players, and, uh, we did a bunch of just, like, readings because it was a all comers, they'll try and find a place for you situation, and I thought I was gonna be, like, a random citizen of Verona, and, when they invited me to come play Romeo, I think I cried for about 5 hours because someone heard my passion for Shakespeare, for the language, for the plays, and they said basically in the audition that they knew that they had found their Romeo, and I did. I cried and cried and cried because it meant the world to me, and then to go through the process of taking it very seriously, having, Shakespearean acting coaches and, people who work in that space tell me that I'm not just doing it well, but that, like, parts of my performance were bringing out new and interesting things and that I was a good Romeo, and I will never forget it, and it was so cool to do that knowing that it was helping others, that, I was in a cast of people who were all as down as I was to just go all the way and spend all the time it took. Um, yeah, it was a really, like, meaningful project to be on.
It seemed amazing, being able to watch that and hearing about the cast post about it on social media. I mean, it was a delight, and there were so many gender bent characters, and I really loved that because a lot of casting directors don't always take that kind of chance. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. I know that technically wasn't a TTRPG, but even in performances that you see online and other tabletop role-playing games, a lot of folks get to shape their own identity and put their own stake on this is how this character is, and you just have to take it or leave it. And I see that a lot with characters that you play, and you make them so three-dimensional and so lived in. And I'd love to hear on if that's a piece of you that you're putting into them, or what your process is like as you create tabletop characters.
Ooh, um this is like the thing that I sit and I always say that I cook them. I get an idea and I'll just kind of work it around. I would say like work it in circles. So one of my specialties as a costumer is that I'm a costume historian. I will go and I have quite a bit of it in my head, but one of the best things you can do as a researcher is obviously go find actual research. Um so that I don't, misremember something or that I don't, put my personal experiences and biases on it. So I will come with a concept. I usually will listen to the like lore or the pitch or the whatever the show, the story is, and I'll go and I will kind of craft a cutout of kind of the shape of who I want them to be, whether that's their class, role they play in the team, the whatever it is, and I start to like cook on what goes in that silhouette. Um and very often is dictated by like the mechanics of the game or the like thing that I want to highlight within the show. Uh, and then I'll go and I'll start doing research and I'll find something that speaks to me, or I'll already have something in my head of stuff that I really like that I think I want to pull on. Like recently, I just did a Good Society actual play over on Roll D5, um, where it was Jane Austen because it's Good Society, but with monsters. And I have this hilarious fascination with the fact that the aristocracy in Europe, when they have like more than three children and they have a boy in particular, at least they did, that boy like inherited nothing, had no like nothing really to say for himself other than like if all of my siblings die, I might get a piece of land. And so I was like, I'm gonna pursue this as the like thing that I am interested in this for this character. Um, and so I'll go and I'll put some, interesting thing that I think is a cool place to start a character. Um, and then I'll do research and then I'll work around and look back at the mechanics and start writing. And I very famously make like 6-page lore documents for characters that are going to last longer than like a session because I want to know like what they look like because while like your intrinsic visuals are not necessarily like defining of who you are, when you start to then paint around that of like, okay, someone who has textured hair, someone who has like maybe curly hair deals with their hair differently. How do they deal with their hair differently? Okay. And I'll start to like explore those avenues. I'll start to explore what kind of scars they may have because scars are for me a sign of like someone who's lived a life and a story within them that they wear on their skin. A tattoo is the same way, that kind of stuff. And I go, okay, so where did this come from? Why do we have this? Or the other way, I'll have a story. So, like, my character from Taino Tales is the Doomsayers has a single facial scar. And it worked the other way, whereas, like, I know that this moment in the story happens because he's Patroclus of ancient Greece. And I said, how do I show this moment in um, like what he looks like because he was seen as betrayer by his family. He was born a prince. His father disowned him. So I made the disowning a scar on his face. Um, so these kinds of like little pieces, and I just kind of like filter all the way through, and I put basically as many visuals into a character as I can that tie to something about them so that it's always an invitation to tell a story, whether it is in conversation between characters, it is something that I use as a storyteller when it comes up in in the game, or maybe it's something that is cool to reveal a character moment when someone is doing magic or something like that. The way that someone does magic is always so personal. Um, and so I just kind of it's like when you're packing for a trip. But say you're a Dungeons and Dragons adventurer packing for a trip. I want to lay out all of the things and go, this is why this is here. This is why this is here. This is why this is here. And that tends to be how like I finish my characters, going all the way from this vague silhouette down and down and down until I've refined them into I know why they wear what they wear, when they wear it, where it came from, what it says about them, all of these little things.
Something that is really fun being able to watch you as a performer is when you decide to embody a certain characteristic of a character. And it's actually something that we talked about here very recently at our WonderCon panel. in Anaheim. And so I'd love to hear which characteristics you decide to physically embody. I mean, I guess you're working with a rectangle that is chest up, but when and why do you choose to embody them in those ways?
I am my own producer in that way, so sometimes it's down to just, like, a technical, ability. Sometimes it's also because I think one of the things in actual play is that people understand that I am not an actor. Like, I'm a performer, obviously, I'm an actor in that way, but, like, I am not going to stand up and walk around my house and have my camera follow me and do perfect mid shots of what I am doing as my character. I am both narrating them outside of their voice and being their voice. So I think often about like what is fruitful to do both. And sometimes it is mostly fully embodying them. And the way that I pick the big things are the ones that are like often the biggest invitations from my table mates. Um, and so if say, like in the case of a charity one shot that I did, I was a dragonborn question mark who was dead and covered in barnacles. And I love Bucket. That's his name, Bucket.
Bucket was a great
But
character. I love him so
I
much.
yeah,
That was
that
just a
was such
silly
a good
little
time.
guy.
He's just a silly little guy, but him being covered in barnacles was one of those, like, open invitations, but also it tells people, I think, very quickly a lot about who they were, because how does a dragonborn get covered in barnacles? Well, they're in the ocean a lot, right? And so just finding little pieces here and there to tell the story, to explain who the character is, even if it's not me with a full dragonborn mask on. um, it's the little pieces that I think show a lot about the character that I tend to be really attached to, as far as like especially makeup, because I can make such specific choices. So like I will tend to, if a character has a scar that is visible, I will probably put it on my body, partly because I'm very fascinated by the like care of scars and how they tell people who you are. So like my character on Transplanter has a lot of scars, and I go through the ritual literally every Saturday and put every single one of the ones from his like neck up on. And I love that personally. It's how I start to put on Zynan's skin is I paint every single one of those scars on, and I love it. And then when it's time to be done being Zynon, I take off the scars, I take off the barnacles, I take off whatever it is. So, um, the makeup side is very much so like these are things that I have a lot of control over. Um, within the reasonable amount of like I still have to sit and talk and exist, and some makeup is not talking friendly. Um, and then as far as the clothes, sometimes it is just like what I have, but very often it'll be like the right color, the right shape. This jacket I bought for Merrick because I love members only jackets already, and he's a character in the '80s, and I was like, "This is right. I am going to make him that '80s guy." And um, that one was another one of those like I've always been obsessed with Patroclus as a character, and so I kind of went a little bit further, in part because I was just so excited to play him. And so I always find like little things. I try to at least have the right colors, maybe the right silhouettes. And then if I'm gonna play a character for like a long time, like I do Zynon or even like Merrick, I played for quite a while. I might go and find something very specific. Like Zynon has his hat that he wears that I love wearing. And that was one of those like a hat or like glasses are kind of an extension of a person when you wear them enough. And so not having the hat just wasn't an option for me because a cowboy is as much a cowboy only when they're wearing their hat. And so that kind of stuff is kind of where, and if I like play a character with glasses, I'll wear glasses, that kind of stuff, just to the physicality because we are all actually androids or cyborgs, the other way. We're all cyborgs. And the technology around us, including our clothing, our glasses, if you use a mobility aid, all of those things are just an intrinsic part of you, in my opinion. And so, like, having those things, I think, is very important for the portrayal if I'm going to physically embody them.
If you had any advice that you could share with budding costumers who want to start physically embodying their characters more in their tabletop games, what advice would you give to them?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, you should do it. Um,
I love that.
yep.
Advice number
Uh,
1, just do it.
just do it. I so my background originally started as a cute little 12-year-old cosplayer, right? And so in my heart, I am always going uh I'm always pushing against the idea that there's any such thing as a perfect costume, especially outside of like professional portrayals of a character for, wider media consumption. I'm specifically talking about like theater and film productions, and even then like if the production says that that's enough, that's enough. So uh I'm always pushing against the idea that there's a such thing as a perfect cosplay. There isn't. The perfect cosplay is the one that resonates with you as a fan and you have the time, money, and energy to put it together. Um, and I will never allow like perfect to be the enemy of fun in the case of cosplay. And to that same level, because costuming for your table is not cosplay, it is costuming because you are the creator of that character. You are the primary source material. Cosplay is of a piece of media that you are enjoying as a fan. And so to costume yourself at your table in any level, even if it's literally a necklace, is enough if that's what you can do. If that's what excites you, inspires you, and helps you tell the story, not only for yourself, but for your table, that's enough. So that's my big thing is like nothing is too small. And if it does it for you, that's the thing. That's the secret. My only caveat to that is you should be comfortable because tabletop takes a really long time. And so I always tell people like don't wear full plate armor unless that's your bit and you really like wearing full plate armor because 4 hours in full plate is hard, and you can't roll dice as well, and it's just not as fun. So, like, be comfortable when you're playing and make sure everyone around you is comfortable, so, like, if you play a nudist, maybe play them as a never nude. Yeah, yeah, um,
That is
so,
not something that I
yeah.
would have thought that people would want to cosplay, but or
Yeah, I'm just
costume
saying.
themselves with.
Yeah,
That, yep, that just, whoop. But
yep,
now,
so
now that's on the dome.
yeah,
Incredible.
so if everyone's comfortable and you are comfortable and you feel like you're portraying your character, that's it. And I always tell people like I might do this professionally and do it on stream. I'm like this offline. I will go to a home game with full face makeup on.
I love that though. I mean, that just it shows your commitment to your character to that game. Because some people you can't even get them to show up, on time or with snacks if it's their snack day. So that's a kind of cool commitment. So don't don't cut
And
yourself
then I'm
short.
and then I'm in Panera wondering why the person behind the counter is looking at me funny when we've taken a lunch break and I have full I did one where I was he was like a minotaur blood hunter, and so he had, like, huge, like, streaks of makeup down his face, and I had the little, like, cow nose on,
Incredible.
and I'm in Panera going like, "What? Oh, yeah, that's right."
This is what I currently look like. Yes.
Yeah, I remember now.
You're a little valid for the look you're giving me. Uh-huh.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I at WonderCon I got a crown because I was like, you know what if I like start doing just a little bit of costuming. That crown hurt so bad
Oh,
to
yeah.
wear with
Mhm.
this headset. And so I'm thinking that maybe I need to get some like the smaller just earbuds for that because it was terrible.
I had
Um
to do that for the hat.
mhm. But it's worth it. It's a beautiful hat, and it really, I mean, that character, the visuals are just stunning. So gotta say that.
Thanks.
earlier you threw out, after you listed your big old resume, you just kind of casually said, "Oh yes, I'm a Twitch streamer now also." um and I thought that was very funny. But I would love to talk about Seems Right, because that is the Twitch segments that you're doing right now, and you're covering topics like cosplaying versus costuming, designing TTRPG characters, and more. And I'd really love to hear about where you'd like the show to go and kind of what inspired the show, because it is different from a lot of the content I'm seeing on Twitch, and even different from what you're seeing if you get like specifically into like TTRPGs and just performance in general, because you prepare for it. You come with a PowerPoint presentation, and I mean it's very impressive and fun to watch. So I'd love to hear just a little bit behind the curtain for Seems Right.
Sure, yeah. Oh my gosh. Seems Right is my new like passion project. It's my little baby that I've been cooking. Don't cook babies. That came out wrong. um,
Can't wait to clip that.
um, um, Seems Right is I think kind of my destiny. Because it is, as I said earlier, like I have a master's, and my master's is in design for entertainment media. Like that's the actual like a master's of fine arts design for entertainment media. It sounds very official. And through that, you have to become a multidisciplinary designer with a master's that you can speak with authority on how to do these things, right? Because that's the point of having a master's, is to like be able to teach and talk about it professionally. And I've graduated with my master's in 2019. Um, and my specialty was, of course, in costume design, but through that, I had to learn lighting. We talked about like immersive technology in design. We talked about scenic design quite a bit. I did a lot of scenic design classes. So we learned like all the disciplines of world building. And because it's designed for entertainment media, not just theater, which is what most design is taught as, especially for costume design. I was working in film as a designer. I was doing immersive entertainment design, which is like theme parks and pop-up events and that kind of stuff. And so thinking about design not as a, proscenium stage, which is the traditional theater archway, um, but rather as the experience of being in a world, and what does it look like and how do you make that real. And so that's kind of the foundation that I came in with. And every time I talk to someone for any duration about my kind of ethos of world building, I find that I kind of start getting into like, okay, but have you considered what it means for someone to wear a dirty garment? Why a character's clothing like condition is as important as what it looks like. And this is when I would start to find out, oh, right, I have a master's in this. I have a master's in thinking about these things. And because of the world we live in, the more I thought about, the more I was like telling people, even though I love my degree, telling people to go get a degree in this so that they can have the same conversations that I love having is not a fruitful way to go about putting that information in the world in a way that people can use. Um, and so I basically took, because I was like a TA when I was in a master's in my master's program, which is a teacher's assistant, where I was the TA for a class about Disney Imagineering taught by a Disney Imagineer. And so I took the things that the skills that I had already developed as a master's of fine art, and my passion for storytelling through TTRPGs and other mediums, because they're all, as I said, the same for me, and smash them together. And what started as every conversation I have with anybody when I get into the meat of character design in the TTRPG space, and I went, I could be streaming this. I could be telling people this, and it would probably be worthwhile, even if I only capture like 5 people. Those 5 people are now significantly more educated, or at least look at these things differently in a way that only kind of I can offer. And so my hope in doing it is by saying like, you don't have to go get a degree in this stuff. I have 2 degrees in which I talk about things. Let me show you like the logic. Let me give to you that tool because it's something that if we're going to be a field of people that love telling personal stories, let me give you more tools to tell them, whether that is through talking about history of dress, whether that is talking about like the practice of costuming and wearing costumes, or if that is about talking about your favorite piece of media and pulling apart the costumes and telling you why the costumes are the way they are. Because all of these things to me are all saying like, okay, so let me tell you why Star Wars is the way it is. So this last week I did an entire episode talking about Star Wars costuming and why it is the way it is and why we respond to it the way we do and kind of both the history of it from our real world perspective, but also how they created this very clear universe with rules and like styles of dress and histories of dress. Um, and so giving people that information so that they can then go away and go, oh, okay, so the way that people dress is dictated by the resources they have. Because if you have a lot of, say, bamboo, you're going to learn how to make clothing out of bamboo. And so taking all of that and saying, like, here, let's talk about it. And having that space and that platform to do so on Seems Right has been so wonderful and so exciting. And I get to do it with people who want to learn it instead of going and trying to become an English or like a costuming professor somewhere, which don't get me wrong, like I think schooling and academia is also fun and wonderful, but those people are not going to be engaged in the way that I am. I want to tell stories for myself. I want to help you just tell stories for yourself that then other people resonate with. I don't really need to go teach another costume designer how to design costumes. There are thousands of people who can do that very, very well. What I can do is say, this is how you design your character better, your worlds better. And I think it is my hope is that it makes all of us better storytellers by me going out there and saying these things.
That's really beautiful. And I can really appreciate you taking the wealth of your knowledge and packaging it in a way that is both fun, entertaining, and also audio and visually stimulating. Because I know, some people have audio processing issues. I know sometimes I do. Some people have where they need to see it. And so it's just chef's kiss to you. And so, that is a project that I find very interesting in the tabletop space right now. But I'd love to hear about what kind of projects are exciting you in the tabletop space right now.
Oh my gosh. Um Overall or for myself?
You choose.
Okay. Um I will say there's kind of an overall thing that I will then loop into something that I have been working on, which is I've been in a lot of conversations lately and seen a lot of shows that are kind of questioning the format of what is an actual play, right? The general accepted idea is that it has to be a story that is based around rules. And outside of that, the questions are like, what does it, where's the edges of that? And where does it stop being an actual play? And where does it start being an actual play? And so I really enjoy kind of the questioning of our platform and medium because actual play is not the paint that you paint a canvas with, it's the canvas itself, and then the paint is the genre. It's the we're doing Orbital Blues, we're doing Vampire the Masquerade, we're doing Dungeons and Dragons. And then what you paint with it is your own story, right? Um, and so questioning what our canvas is made of and how we build it and make it, frame it, to me is so cool because it means that we're kind of evolving as a medium and starting to really chart a path for what it looks like going forward. And so I've seen that in a lot of things. I mean, even Critical Role just dropped Thresher, and it seems like there's not a table, at least in any of the advertising for it. I'd have to go look at it to see for sure, but like I saw it's a Candela game, and I've seen versions of Candela that are done kind of almost absent a traditional TTRPG setting where it's like everyone's rolling dice maybe, but they're sitting on couches. And that's why I like games like Dread, where sure, yeah, there's a table, but it's a Jenga tower. It's not dice. Um, And all of those are still actual play, like accepted normal forms of actual play. 10 Candles, where yeah, there's dice, but also the main mechanic is candles. Uh, and so questioning what that looks like, and I've been really enjoying especially the exploration of journaling TTRPGs and solo TTRPGs and the gamification and utilization of things like um, the Quiet Year and the Zero Session system and Decima and these things that are created that are games, but they're mostly games to help you create a story, not the story itself. And I think that that's also very cool, and it's equally an actual play. Um, and so I've been on this 2-year long journey with a project that I've been working on, kind of part of this wider conversation, with Lori's house, which is with Tender Vicious Studios, which we came into it saying, how do we question the boundaries of like expected actual play? And so Lori's house is about a tarot game that is entirely based on solo journaling games, but played as a table and played as a communal exploration. Um, I think per episode, there's maybe 3 mechanics used ever. And the rest of it is full like, there's character sheets and things like that, but the character sheets are quite literally like suggestions. This is a magical realism game, so anything is possible if you say it happens. Um, and I would argue that it definitely still is an actual play, but it is an actual play devoid of almost every earmark of traditional actual play, other than there's a group of people playing around a figurative table because we recorded it remotely with rules. And so I love this direction. While I do still love, give me dice. I want maps. I want to know how far away that, creature is over in that corner if I can get sneak attack on them. Like I love that stuff because I also love the crunchy game side of actual play, but pushing it from one end where we're almost doing Warhammer to I haven't rolled a dice in this entire campaign is so cool.
I love that. Some of my favorite games that I've ever played have had like so few dice rolls. I mean, like, I love for the people who love going into a combat simulator. That is amazing for them. And I am so happy that it brings them joy. But for me, I could go months without doing any sort of combat. I am there for the role play. I am there
Yeah.
to make my friends kick their feet back and forth and blush. And I'm there for the beach episodes and the shopping episodes. And oh, I love that. So that
Right.
is very exciting. I know that y'all just started releasing here very recently, so I am
Mhm.
definitely going to need to add that to my watch list as of yesterday. Thank you so much. But friends, I've got some bad news. We only have 2 questions left. So that's I know, kind of a bummer, but I'd love to hear your take on humans in TTRPGs because I think that humans in D&D specifically get a really bad rap for like being boring. Like, why be a human when you could be literally anything else? But I think that on the opposite side, like it can be really fun and like stand out to be a human because there are so many different species and so many objectively cooler choices to pick. So when you pick a human, you've got to make them stand out. And so I would love to hear from you a really standout human that you've played in a TTRPG, not necessarily in D&D, but what really made them special.
Gosh, I'm always a liar if I'm playing a human, so it's, it's a really hard pitch. Um, I I will say to their credit, we'll start there. I love humans in fantasy. I do. I really do. My favorite character in Lord of the Rings is Aragorn. I love I mean, he's only a kind of a normal human, but still, he's a human. Um, the um the thing about them, is that really in the big picture of Lord of the Rings, the analog for the normal human experience is the Hobbit, who just wants to be a little guy. That's to me, I think that's the quintessential human experience. I'm just a little guy. Um, And the my pitch is always, if the point of the entirety of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings is to prove that there is no such thing as a small life, I don't see why you can't play humans and make the stories so meaningful and so delicious. When I say, like, I'm a liar, that when I'm playing a human, I'm probably actually playing something else, especially in Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I will play what looks like a human, and they're secretly a reborn, secretly a vampire, secretly, I will just I love doing that kind of stuff, but I love subverting expectations. I will also purposely build characters that look like one class that are another, just because I think that that's fun. Um, my favorite one that I'm thinking of is the character that I would always say, like, "Oh, he's just a normal human boy. Don't worry about it." Um,
I'm worried
but
about it. I don't believe that.
yeah, he's just a normal human boy. His name was Nix, and he was the surliest, most obstinate teenage boy you've ever seen, who dressed like a doll. Um, and he was in a fairy tale game, and, a normal human teenage boy with a bad attitude in a fairy tale game is either asking to be killed by fairies or has already been killed by fairies. And the answer was the second one, because he was actually the little boy from the beginning of the Snow Queen all grown up. And he was secretly, like, in his 20s. And he had a bad attitude because he worked for the Snow Queen.
I'd have a bad attitude too.
Right? Um, but he was one of those characters that I was like, I want everyone to underestimate him, and I think that's why I was drawn to him looking like a human so completely, even though he was a hexblood, um, because the empathy that can be given in those spaces, especially in grand stories about, fantastical worlds with the option to be anything, and if you look relatively normal, it makes people go like, "Okay, so what happened here? Why was this the choice?" And I'm always looking for ways to invite people to ask that question both in and out of narrative of like, "What you doing here?" And Nyx was my puzzle box character where he looked like a warlock but was secretly a fighter, and like all of these other things, because if humans are our like basic frame of understanding, because we are for the most part going to be humans playing this game. I'm sure people have played this game that are, identify otherwise. I know plenty of people who do, but also like I know cats have played D&D. I've seen it. Um
Mhm.
and so if our basic collective understanding is mostly human, there is something so wonderfully personal about saying, "No, I'm human." Because I'm here to explore something else than, what it's like to be other than myself. I'm here to explore, maybe it's a different career, a different like perspective on the world. Some of my favorite characters I've ever made were human or were just normal in that context of like they are the average person in the world. My character from Transplanter was a farmer. He was just a farmer. He looks like a lot of other people in his world, and I love exploring like why normal people become adventurers. And so in that way, like humans, if they're going to be our quote unquote standard because we are humans, what would make me get up out of my chair and become an adventurer? Um, and that's the thing I always love exploring.
Ugh, I love that. All right. So our last question before we move
Ah.
on to before we move on to our game portion is that tabletop implies the existence of table bottom, and I'd love to hear where you weigh in on this important philosophical debate.
I mean, you're right. Um, I believe in representing all kinds at the table. As a person who as a bringer of all kinds myself, and I listen, table bottom rights. I played the bottom of Transplanter RPG on the Chaos Protocol, so bottom rights. Table bottom rights.
Table bottom rights. Incredible. We're going to move on to our game portion.
Do do do. Do do do.
All right, my friend, we are here to play a game. Are you ready, Kai?
I love game.
Incredible. Well, you have picked playing 20 questions. And so I have prepared an end thing that I have in my mind. And you are going to have 20 questions. And between you and me, we can count these.
I have a whiteboard that
Incredible.
I will use.
So you know how 20 questions works. But if there is someone who doesn't know how 20 questions work, I already have the thing in my dome. Kai has 20 questions, yes or no, to figure out what I am thinking of. And Kai has so graciously decided that they are going to keep track of the questions. So, Kai, the floor is yours.
Well, we have to start with the classic. Is it bigger than a bread box?
Yes, that is the wildest first question ever to me. Wow. Incredible. Okay.
So
Um
yes, bigger than a bread box?
yes.
Then we'll go the other way. Is it small enough to fit in a car?
I love this question. I also hate this question because of the thing that this is. Um
It's a car.
at the end, when I have told you what the thing is, I'll tell you
Yeah.
why. It could not fit in a car,
Okay.
but it also gave me a lot of pause.
Okay. Does it think thoughts?
No,
Can I hold it in my hand? Not size wise, but is it a physical thing that I can hold?
you certainly could hold some of it in your hand.
Cool. I figured at
Uh,
that size.
maybe not you specifically, but someone could hold it in
Okay.
their hand.
Is it slimy?
A lot of it, yes.
Is it blue?
No,
Oh, okay. That was a face. I can't wait to know what this is. No, not blue. Okay. Is it made? Is it manufactured? Uh-oh.
no, it's not.
Does it exist in our real world?
No. And that is actually
Okay.
the exact question that I wanted you to ask. Incredible. I thought my thoughts
Yeah, you thought it.
so hard at you. Incredible.
Perfect. Okay. We're narrowing it down. We're narrowing it down. Hmm. Now it's opened a whole door of possibilities. Gosh, it's gonna be something really funny, and I can't wait because I'm like, what is it? Can you find it in a D&D source book?
No.
Can it be moved?
No.
Is it made of stone?
It's not made of stone, but there are stones exist
In
with
it?
it. Yes.
Okay. Stones exist with it.
In it. I think in it is a better word, not with it.
Okay. Okay. Now we're puzzling. Now it's now it's happening. It's so funny I picked this game. I because my brain can go wide, very obviously, very wide. I'm like the most unpredictable person to play this game. I don't know why. I was like, let's do that one.
And that is, that makes sense when your first question was not, is it a person? Then is it a place? Then is it a thing?
No, nope,
Incredible.
nope. Also because things sometimes cross those categories. I've played this game with some people who really they're like androids, and I'm like, okay, they're a person, but they're also thing.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that to you. I promise.
Okay. No, I figured. Stones within it. Is it in space? No.
Because space exists,
Gosh. That's true.
and this does not.
Do not exist.
Well, in our,
Yeah, in our reality.
but space is still our reality, kind of.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know how space works that much, actually. So I could be totally wrong. Don't quote me on it.
You heard it here, folks. Is it metallic?
No,
No? I have like a hilarious amorphous blob of something with stones floating it in my head, and that's now what it is. That's not helpful.
not at all.
Um, not helpful. Mm-mm. Do people care for it?
Yes. Fake people and real people.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is it wet?
Yes.
Is it a geographical feature?
Yes. In the sense that I'm thinking,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Uh-oh. I have 4 questions
I'm
left.
so sorry.
No, it's so funny. I have a very hilarious vague idea that is all of these questions just kind of like taking shape, and it's still just kind of like a wet blob with rocks in it. Uh,
It does kind of describe the place that I'm thinking of. So
uh-huh.
I believe in you. You got this.
Do people live inside it?
Yes.
All right.
Sometimes one person, sometimes two people, sometimes a lot of people, sometimes like seven people.
7 people is a very specific number.
Okay, I don't get caught up on the seven. If you're gonna get caught up on something,
No,
get caught up on one, two, and then
too
like 100.
many. Okay. In my mind, it's like a fictional river, a fictional body of water. Do people build things on or in it?
I have never seen someone build in or on it, but there is at least two buildings on it. I have just never watched them be built.
Is it fantasy?
Yes.
Is its source material animated?
Yes.
Uh, two things built on it is the thing that I keep on being like, okay. I mean, I certainly don't know what it is, despite your very best efforts.
Drats.
Um, you did so well. Ah! Um, it's okay. I famously play games not to win, but to have fun.
I don't know. You made a lot of faces that didn't look like you were having fun.
I'm having so much fun. I'm just thinking really hard. Sometimes the gears grind a little. My like first guess that I started to kind of shape it around is Atlantis. Um, yeah.
But do you want to do that one?
Yeah, I'm so curious for what it actually is. So I'm gonna say Atlantis because I want to know what it really
Okay.
is.
It is Shrek's swamp.
Oh my god! All of these things are correct. Yes.
Um so, so so to
Oh,
start at the beginning, you asked, can it fit in
in a
a
car.
car? And to me, I was like, I mean, you can watch the movie in a
Yes,
car and it fits, but it
and
doesn't really fit.
you could put a swamp in a car.
Yeah, you could
It
put
just
some
wouldn't
of,
all fit.
but like not his swamp. There's an outhouse and there is
Yeah.
his home.
Mhm.
Shrek lived on it. Shrek and Donkey lived on it.
Donkey and then
Shrek and
Shrek and
Fiona lived on it,
Fiona
but then they
lived on
had a
it.
lot of kids, and I haven't watched the ones where they have the
Yeah.
kids yet. And then there's like
Well, and
hundreds of
didn't
creatures that
the
also
donkey
live.
and dragon live there briefly too? There's a lot. Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
that's why I was like,
Uh-huh.
seven. And but then
Yeah.
I didn't want you to like go like the seven dwarves route, and so I
Yeah,
was like, let's
that's
just
where my
yoink
head
that
was like
away.
I was like, which which body of water is not blue? Shrek Swamp. You're correct,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah, that
Yeah.
got me. That tickled me greatly. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much for playing. That was so much fun.
Of
Oh,
course.
geez. All right. Well, we are, my friends, going to go on a super quick break to, you're going to hear from me talk about some upcoming TTRPG charity initiatives and other announcements that we have. Woo! All right, my friend, we are so close to the end, and this has been so much
No.
fun playing 20 questions with you and just hearing you talk about the really, really cool work that you're doing, not only in the tabletop space, but outside of it as well. And then on top of that, educating others. I mean, just a very cool trifecta. I don't know what is it when you make four or five or six, because I feel
Oh,
like you're like up at like 10 things that you're doing very incredibly well. And speaking of things that you're doing very incredibly well, I would love for you to take some time to talk about projects that people can see you in right now and some upcoming things that you have on the horizons.
well, thank you so much for having me, Jess. This has been a blast to hang out and play 20 questions with and miss guess Shrek Swamp as Atlantis. Um, it's been a treat. Gosh, you can find me all over the place pretty much all the time in the TTRPG space if you follow me at EstelofImladris. My main home is over on Transplanter RPG, which is an all transgender, people of color led dark fantasy actual play series set in a non colonial, anti Orientalist multiverse, where I am in the main cast of the second campaign, The Chaos Protocol, where I play a sad dad cowboy man named Zanin Esh. And we jump planes every arc, so we play different systems to embody the laws of a new plane of existence. So we have wrapped arc 3, which we spent in the plane of Inferno playing a hack of Court of Blades by a pair of drakes called Court of Vampires, where we played vampires doing messy vampire things in a modern adjacent Shanghai-esque vampire world. And we are spooling up for arc 4. We're so excited. There's some really fun stuff on the horizon in Transplaner, so go check that out. And I cannot wait for arc 4. Um, and you can also find me as the architect over on Tender Vicious Studios at Lori's House, which is a all new Home We Remember actual play podcast that drops every other Thursday, where again I play the architect, which is the game master, guiding my incredible table through a story about community and memory and the selfless act of self exploration. And it is a tarot based magical realism game where we explore who we are as shaped by our memories. And the Home We Remember is a forthcoming TTRPG from Frivolous Bear Studios that you will see all throughout our socials and things like that. We're very excited for that game to come out as well. And then you can pretty reliably find me over on Happy Jack's RPG as well, which is a in studio actual plays channel that we get to play fun games without any kind of sponsorship concerns or things like that. We enjoy talking about indie games, including with the people who design them and playing them um, together with our friends, just having a really good time. And Happy Jacks has been at it for a very long time, and I love going and just playing games with my friends in the studio there. So you can follow me in all those places and many, many, many more reliably haunting the internet. And keep an eye out for a bunch of new projects that are going to be published, announced very, very soon. Can't wait to see you all there.
Ugh, incredible. I'm so excited. Well, thank you again, Kai, for taking the time to chat with me today. We have made it all the way to the very end, which means it's time for you to say your good morning. Do you have it prepared?
Oh my gosh, I do. I'm so
Amazing.
excited about this.
All right,
I
the
think it's an
floor is
ontological
yours.
truth. uh, Good morning to everyone who insists that digital dice just don't work as well as physical dice, and to them only.
You heard it here,
Dice.
folks. I'm just the human, and this is Kai from Transplanar and so many more amazing TTRPG projects. And together, we're saying good morning to everyone who insists that digital dice just don't work as well as physical dice, and to them only.